Please record this. Thanks, phone. A world black and white. Snow fills the night. The children hang their heads. The animals have been enslaved. In a world black and white, shivering all the night. A song without words. In a world black and white, shivering all the night. A world ran by man, everything controlled by hand. A tree rests in time, without reason or rhyme. A meaning gifted to it from the perceiver of its bliss. Fingers don't have enough cartilage to fucking form the right chord for long enough, so I'll just do this. In a world black and white, shivering all the night. The animals as our slaves. Red fog above and white down below. Moral compasses turn to cults. Searching in the snow, searching for answers, answers simply made up. Perception is reality after all. A tree grows from the seed in which it all origins from. And on one of those infinitesimally small branches is where we lie. Now this tree is nothing like you've seen before. It spirals and spirals and spins for eternity, an infinite amount of branches, and yet the tree itself can be labeled as just one branch. And then you find that tree as a branch on another tree with infinite branches. How do you go about finding meaning in such small levels? Now, meaning in my eyes does not follow suit with what we typically view as valuable or more important. We think the smaller things are not as important in the grand scheme of things, but all bigger things are made up of smaller things. Even infinity itself. Infinity would not exist without each and every number along the way. Now ask yourself, yeah, if you took one away from infinity, it would still be infinity, right? Yeah, you're right about that. But are any other numbers exactly the same as you on that line? Now, meaning is what you make of it. Meaning is subjective, and so is the meaning of life. Meaning is interpreted by us, by none other. Meaning is what you make of it, quite directly and literally. Now, when it comes to choosing your own meaning, it's very easy to get caught up in the grand scheme of things and losing your head, not being able to find such purpose in such a tiny little offshoot of a branch on an infinitely branching tree. Now, without us here to perceive reality, what is reality? Who would be able to bathe in the beauties of this vast universe other than life itself, us, the other creatures on this planet? If there was no life, no viewers, no perceivers of said universe, then what is that universe? It's a jumbled mess, or organized mess, however you like to view it, of particles, matter, mass, subatomic particles, and so on. However, our window into reality, into our universe, is personal and relative to us and only us. For we, the beholder of such beauties, are what permit those beauties to have subjective meaning, subjective value. Now, the beautiful things in life that just sit out, say for example, a flowing waterfall. Now, the waterfall necessarily, as far as we know, can't think, wow, what a beautiful waterfall am I? No. That is purely subjective. Just like meaning itself is entirely subjective in what you make of it. However, I believe in it. Finding meaning in countless things, including ourselves, and never being able to settle on a single definition for nearly just about anything. I believe there's an objective beauty to that, objective purpose placed there by some higher power, in which I believe to be the peak of paradox, the origin in which all sprouted from, the seed of our tree, the tree. I believe that being able to bring senses, being able to sense the universe. What is a universe without being viewed? What is a universe? An empty universe in which there is nothing for time to be relative to, nothing to live in the moment, nothing there to perceive time, to perceive matter, perceive memories, experiences. We are what bridges our universe into reality, for we are the perceivers, and perception is reality. Perceiving the universe is what makes the universe real, what makes it reality. And through our lenses, a story is experienced unlike any other, that will never be told again. It will be told once and never again. As far as we can tell, regardless, it is unique. It is a relative story. It may be incredibly similar to others, but regardless, not exactly the same. A story told by stardust moving about a big old universe made of tiny little particles, more stardust. You could view that as a silly concept to be brushed aside, and that it is silly from the get-go. However, amongst that comes unknown, ignorance. Living in the moment means not knowing what comes next. It means your story unfolds before you. Now, if the universe had nothing to perceive it, nothing there to bear a relativity to time in which it could flow, in which it could unfold before their very eyes, without them knowing exactly what's going to happen. Now, that's not much of a story now, is it? A story can't quite be told in a single instant. That's the beginning, the end, the middle, all over again. Essentially, an infinite story, forever and never. Now, once again, that is why we are such incredible creatures, to be able to give birth to the term beauty, the term meaning, the term goals, dreams, whatever it may be, it's because we do not know what comes next. We do not know what came before either. We only know the now. We know right now. And dreaming of a distant dream, it might get you to it, but think of all those seconds you wasted with your head in the clouds when you could have been surfing, flying. You could have been doing it. All that time you spent thinking about it. Once you know your boundaries, they are no longer your boundaries. Cling on to your passions and let them carry you to the clouds. Do not let anything else get in the way of such goals. For that purpose is relative to you and you only, in which that meaning you search and strive for, that is what actively makes it all so beautiful and worth it. The simplest phrases typically have the most meaning. Because in the grand scheme of our universe, we do not know what is outside of it. We may never know. And perhaps that is for the best, for ignorance is bliss. The unknown is what allows change to occur, and change is what allows the story to unfold. Change is what allows us to live in the moment, allows us to perceive differently, come back later and change our perception on such a thing. Change is what allows the mind to flow, what allows such stories to unfold, what allows anything to unfold in our universe. It is because of change. And to us, change, for the most part, is entirely unknown. We can guess sometimes, but that is about it. We do not know for sure. For change is the unknown. Unknown is change. Ignorance is the unknown. Ignorance is bliss. If we knew everything right from the beginning, what would the next step be? If you've experienced everything essentially in your mind, if you have every single memory possible, if you have every single understanding of every single thing ever, what's next? Because there is nothing next. There's no step to climb. You know everything. You know everything. And when you know everything, and there's nothing above you, nothing more to understand, that is the peak of knowledge. That is the limit. And once you reach that, you truly no longer have the meaning you once had. Now, that is why ignorance is so beautiful. The unknown is such an amazing gift, for it allows for imperfection. So one of the many steps that is needed for perfect imperfection. What allows imperfection, what allows faults and flaws and errors in a perfectly constructed universe. Some things in this universe to us may appear to be arbitrary, random, but that is merely because we do not know exactly what happens. We have some understanding of some things, or at least we like to think we do, but we still do not know anything in this world for sure. We know nothing. We just think we know. We are led to believe that based on countless observations and things to back it up from prior experiences. On top of that, essentially, facts are not factual. Facts are merely thoughts, ideas, backed up by enough things to call it true. True is a very, very flimsy term. True can change over time, and it does. It changes with knowledge, which only makes sense. Truth and non-truths. What's false? It changes. It is subjective. It is based on the amount of knowledge we have provided. And even when we have all the knowledge in the universe, but we don't know what's happening outside our universe, if there's any outside sources directly influencing our universe, we still cannot truly prove anything happens for another reason. Because we don't know everything. There will always be potentials, possibilities, which we cannot truly prove nor disprove. Hence the term paradox. Paradoxes put into place to keep us within a confined box, I guess you could say. But it is all for the purpose of maintaining that ultimate ignorance, so you may never reach the peak of knowledge. But the goal is never to reach the peak of knowledge. Once you reach the peak of knowledge, you have ran out of steps. However, that is why the system is put in place where you have an infinite amount of steps. You will forever climb an endless staircase until you realize, hey, maybe I should settle here and enjoy the view. That is essentially it in a nutshell. I like to believe that the source, the peak of paradox, the top of a summitless mountain, or the seed of an infinitely expanding tree, put the system in such place to create meaning from the meaningless, to create everything from nothing. That is quite literally what he did. Meaning from the meaningless. He was the peak of knowledge. He still is. Forever will be. For I like to believe, since he created time as well, he exists outside of time, and he could also exist within time. Therefore, he is a singularity. Therefore, he is the exact same point across the future, present, past, everywhere, never, forever, and ended, perpetual, yet ended. That is what God is to me. The peak of it all. An unclimbable mountain. But it is built that way on purpose. It is to sustain meaning, sustain ignorance, the unknown. Always another step to climb, another thing to figure out. And some things you will never be able to figure out. Therefore, unknown stays forever within that box. It's just basic logic behind it all. A lot of people think or say that my thoughts on the world are perplexing and I have a way with words and I have it all figured out and I always know what to say. Part of me likes to think that our reality is a lot more simple than that most people like to believe, just because conformity and whatnot, all that stuff. And on top of that, complexity is merely an illusion. Complexity is created when there's a lack of knowledge, which only obviously makes sense. But if you think of it that way, everything is essentially simple. You just gotta put in the work to be able to gain such knowledge and understand, which, no shit, just the way I think of it. it makes me think that everything can be figured out. And it is. Anything is truly possible. It's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. It's cliche because it's so universally true to the point where it's repeated numerous times. And once it's repeated a certain amount of times, it gets to the point where it gets annoying or it nags at people, or people it starts to lose its value after it's repeated again and again and again, because it diminishes over time because people get tired of hearing it and they start to think maybe it's not that true. And people just say that because they want to sound smart. But in reality, cliche things are the most smart things we can possibly say, because they held the most amount of truth for the most amount of different situations, because they are universally what we consider true. And that is why cliche things are so awesome. But back to what I was saying. People like to say I have a way with words and that I am incredibly smart. Other people that don't say that, they don't really understand what I'm saying. And perhaps that's just a fault on my part for not explaining well enough. Or it is due to conformity or confirmation bias or something of the sort, in which they will not let my thoughts essentially invade their mind. I don't know. It sounds kind of stupid, but that's kind of the way to put it. But I don't believe... I believe anybody could reach my state of mind had they only had the right mindset to just keep asking why. Keep asking why. And when you find the answer to that why, ask it again and again and again and again. Ask that about yourself. Why am I here? Why am I like this? Why do I hate everything sometimes? Why can't I get anything done? Why am I so out of motivation? Why do I hate my friends? Why do I feel so skeptical? Why do I feel so superstitious? Why? That's why you need to take a breath and ask why and answer it. Don't just ask it. Think about it. Think about it all. It's much easier said than done. It's taken me multiple years. I don't know how many years since I started thinking like this to reach this point. Some people may say that the way I talk could also be crazy. Crazy, insanity is relative. The normal, what is normal, is a social construct. Normality is an illusion. Normality is abnormal in human nature. Everybody is weird, and that's a good thing. That's how it should be. It's uniqueness. Trying to appeal to social constructed societal standards such as normality and what is perceived as normal or formal or polite. That is just kind of an offshoot of the primal fear of being left out, because there is strength in numbers. When you are within a pack, you have a higher rate of survival. It's kind of built into our foundation. And so it plays in the subconscious mind, the subconscious realm, which eventually makes its way into the conscious mind in some manner. And when you think about it, sometimes it doesn't go through the conscious mind at all. It just happens. You do it instinctively, thoughtless. But when it goes through your mind and you think about it, you may think like, oh, I really want to look nice today. I really want to appeal. You think like that. You don't think, I need to fit in with this group so I have higher survival rates. That is not how you think. Which, of course makes sense. But you cannot escape your primal foundations, regardless of what you do. As long as you continue to push them away, to neglect them, as long as you disregard them as feral or unfit, sure, you can think of them that way. but they're forever going to be the foundation of your mind, of your body, yourself. You are built on primal instincts, because that's what we used to be. Primal animals. We used to be savages. Our nature is brutal. But that's the way it should be. That's the system that kept life going for millions of years, and now look at us. Appeared about 100,000 years ago, and now everything's going to shit. So, what was I saying? Yeah. People like to say things I say are crazy. I merely believe I have a good mindset. What is objective in my eyes can also be subjective. But then again, objectivity is kind of the average, the mean of all subjective thoughts on said topic. So it's technically subjective, but what is objective is essentially all of them combined, so it is objective yet subjective at the same time. Regardless, it is the closest we can get to the quote-quote best thing overall, because how else are you supposed to, go about it? It's the closest thing we can get. It's the best we can, the best we can do. It's to give it our best try. It's not the perfect try, but it is the best we can do with the limited resources we have to use. But the way I like to think is based entirely off of objectivity and logic. Just bare bones logic. If you leave out any information or any possibilities, you are throwing away potential truths. You will not know for sure what the truth is right off the get-go. And you may never know what it is. But the point is to observe every possibility. Keep a perfectly, not a perfectly, but a near perfect open mind. Which means looking at as many possible, possibilities as possible for a human mind, because you can't go over an infinite amount of possibilities, but go over the main ones at least. But perfect open-mindedness is looking at every single possibility, and just like objectivity, where you take the basically every single subjective view on the topic and conglomerate it into a single piece, you do that with all those possibilities into one raw conclusion, which is basically just objectivity with logic. But let me say this. If you were to overlook certain possibilities or immediately neglect them as, no way, that can't be at all, doesn't matter what it's for, that is called confirmation bias. And bias is what makes us human. Our imperfections are what make us human. However, it is also our greatest flaw in terms of trying to understand our daily issues, because with consciousness comes bias, comes subjectivity, thus comes conflict between humans. But it can be controlled. Not perfect, never perfect, that's the point, but it can be controlled. If you can watch, observe your bias, observe your own patterns, your own mental, psychological patterns in which you follow subconsciously. If you can recognize those and catch yourself, and learn to catch yourself, and learn to always look at every single possibility, you can mitigate bias, confirmation bias, polarization, everything that is currently leading to countless problems within our society. And then you can get to probably the best conclusion you can get to with your limited resources possible, which will probably have the best outcome. But yeah, pretty much. How long have I been recording for? 37 minutes. Well then. I really hope the audio wasn't quiet that whole time. It probably was slightly quiet. But the thing is, there are so many things. Let me put this back down. Let me make sure it's recording where my voice is somewhat audible. Seems like it, so I'll take what I can get. The thing is, there are so many things I want to say, so many things I want to get out there that people, I think, need to know because it can make our world so much better, and I want it to be heard. I want people to think about it. I want people to be smart. I want us to be better than this. And yet, there will be a million words left in my mouth when I die. I will never be able to say everything I want to say, and that is how it should be. I can make countless recordings and I will still have more to fucking say. I'm not mad about that, but it's just mixed emotions. There's a beauty to that, and I'm like passionate about it, and at the same time it's a burden and a gift, just like everything is a gift. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So beautiful. Meaning from the meaningless, everything from nothing. But back to what I was saying. I want my voice to be heard. I don't care if it's my voice specifically. It could be any motherfucker's voice out there. It could be anybody's voice. As long as this information is heard and out there in the public and everybody thinks about it. And I will not stop until everybody starts thinking about this shit, until everybody starts to improve themselves. And on top of that, we need to think about all our problems daily. We're not gonna just throw them aside like some selfish bastards. Not anymore. Not anymore. I may be sounding manic right now, and that might be partially it. But if that's the case, I'm manic a fuck ton because this shit needs to be heard. There are so many solutions right in our face. So many solutions, so many problems. And all we have to do is just think a little bit, objectively speaking, and throw away the bias, and we can get to a good conclusion. But people can't do that because they're selfish beings. We're selfish in nature because when we're born with just ourselves and nothing else. We never truly own anything else. And ownership is an illusion. Ownership is an illusion created by how our society was formed and brought about, where we can own different things, but we don't own anything other than ourselves. And that is why we are so selfish, because the whole entire thing built into our mind and our foundation is to keep ourselves alive, to keep ourselves happy and make our life as best as possible. But what is best for everyone? Well, that has to be brought about over the best of everybody, obviously, because that's objective. The objective best is across everybody's subjective best, which only makes sense. But think of it this way. For example, climate change, overpopulation. We currently have an overpopulation problem. Within just the 10 years, within the past 10 years, I am 19 years old. What is the date? I'm fucking stupid. Sorry about that. It is May 27th, 2022. I don't think I said the date already in this recording, but that is the current date. It is currently 1:23 a.m. And usually whenever it's this late, it breaks down the mental confirmation in which, usually tries to make me appeal more to other people. But now it is at the point where it breaks those mental barriers and it makes me just want to spit out everything in my mind again and again and again. And it feels like it's getting to the point where it's every night like this. But maybe that's a good thing. Time will tell, just like it tells everything. But what was I saying again? Yeah, overpopulation in the past 10 years, over like just half my life, and I'm still technically a teenager, even though I'm an adult, but it's, 19, teenager, but still, I have witnessed firsthand the issues
we currently are facing with overpopulation. There's so many areas that used to be very, very lightly populated. Now, it feels like everywhere I go, there are countless people. Obviously terrible traffic pretty much everywhere. But to be fair, I also live in California, so, fuck ton of people. So, of course, it's biased, and it's from my standpoint. But then again, if you think about it, by 2050, there are going to be more than 10 billion people on this earth. Think about this. To count to 1 million, a person has to nonstop count for about 23 days straight. Now, times that by 1,000, that is 1 billion. Then times that by 10. That is the number of people that are going to be on this earth in about less than 30 years. That is an abominably large number. And millions of cars on the road every day burning millions and millions of tons of gasoline and whatever carbon fuels going in the atmosphere. It's no fucking wonder we're destroying the planet actively before our very eyes. We are tearing down wilderness, nature itself, when nature is our foundation. We are not above nature. We stem from it. When you take away nature, you are killing us. You actively destroy us. Okay? You fuck us over. A lot of people like to think that they own nature, own animals, are above it. But just like I said earlier, ownership is an illusion created by the mind, selfishness, greediness, the sins of humanity, as you will. Sins itself, obviously. I do not believe in hell, for it is not objectively, logically, making sense. It's more than likely just a part of the moral compass that was built thousands of years ago in order to describe the dualism that exists within our universe, which is everywhere. Dualism is everywhere, and that's the beauty of it. Heaven and hell, good and bad, light and bad. You can't have one without the other, and there's beauty to that. But back to what I was saying again. I keep getting off track because there's so many things I want to say, and I will never be able to say fully as many times as I want to say it. Because as long as these are not out there for everyone, I'm always going to be rambling to myself this late at night, every fucking night, and I'll always have it in the back of my mind, and every time anyone mentions a single thing about this type of shit, I will go on a philosophical rant for hours and hours and hours, and it will get me nowhere, except right back where I started. So, I'm still trying to think about how to get my shit out there. I might upload this somewhere, but then again, I might private it, because at the same time, I feel like, I don't know. Maybe it's probably, because of that selfish want for these things to be coming from my mouth, for it to be my words. I don't want someone to just see or hear this recording, take everything I said in this, and list it off as their own, and they blow up for it. But of course, obviously, that's hypocritical of me. Extremely hypocritical. Unbelievably hypocritical. And yet, it still lives in my mind. And like I always like to say, control what you can, accept what you can't control. It's like the serenity prayer, Exactly. It's the serenity prayer. And have the wisdom to know the difference. But, I don't want to be, well, at the same time, I still have to think of myself, what is it that I want? I want what everyone wants, but I also want what I want. I have to balance the two. But with this, I have to pick one or the other, essentially, it feels like. So I'm probably just going to put this out there. If someone wants to steal all my fucking ideas and list them off as their own, go ahead. Go right the fuck ahead. I don't give a shit at this point. I partially do, obviously, but at the same time, it's like part of me wants, It's like I'm writing a book with my words, painting a canvas with my speech, and it's art. But at the same time, it's information that needs to be shared. So, I think I'm going to decide on just putting this out there, like I said. And if this helps our world, our society in some way rebuild itself, then I say it is more than worth it. In fact, maybe that's actually a necessary step for people to pass on the word again and again and again. But then again, people have heard this stuff. People have heard all this stuff before. Everything I'm saying, essentially, they've heard of it before, but they throw it out of their mind over time because it becomes less and less applicable and less important to them because they have the wrong mindset. My information will not do shit until they have the right mindset. Now, if I were able to sit down with each and every person on this planet, I could probably find a way to change their mindset for the better, to change how they view the world and themselves and all of it. And also, I could probably help them with all their problems. And that, there has never been a person I've come across where I couldn't help mentally when I had the option. I've had people kill themselves. When I say that, I mean, I've had a friend who killed himself, but I didn't know what he was going through at the time. I didn't know until after, but I'm not letting that happen again. It's not happening again. And I say that, and it still can happen again because it's something I can't fully control, but it's something I can attempt to control. It is something I can try to control. But, let me rephrase what I said earlier. Most people I talk to about their problems, almost all, more than likely, I can get through to them. Now, face to face, that's a different story because there's a lot of things that play into it more than just online over text. Because there's a lot more you got to do to gain someone's trust when you're sitting right there face to face with them, because you got to show expressions. You got to show a lot more than just, static. There's a lot more that goes into it, into gaining someone's trust so you can dive into their mind and help them. That's why, it's a lot to say, but you get the point. It's a lot harder to get through to people like that in person than online. But online, I can basically get through to just about anybody if I try hard enough. But, like I was saying, back to what I was saying, if I could sit down with every single person on this planet, eventually I could probably improve their overall mindset to become less biased and more objectively better. But I can't do that. Because there are billions of people on this planet. So obviously, no shit, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's why part of me thinks it's not going to happen. And, obviously, this is a very unstructured recording. I'm spewing this shit as it comes out of my mind. There are a lot of things I did not touch about. There's a lot of things that I talk about like it should be pre-assumed, like I've already talked about them, because I have already talked about them, but it's not in this recording. So I apologize if it feels like, but yeah. There's a lot more in this recording that I talk about and think about all the fucking time. But like I said before, I'm not going to be able to say everything. That's okay. But back to what I was saying. Maybe this won't happen where everybody changes their mindset. The most realistic outcome is that we destroy ourselves, or we destroy ourselves and the planet, something around there. And maybe when humanity is in lower numbers, we can think about it more on how to rebuild civilization to be more objectively better. And not as biased and not as, putting power in one position and completely skewing the system to one side. And also, of course, we have to fix the foundations in which they're built upon, because flaws in the foundation will continue to follow up through the chain of the system. No matter how much you fix the top level, it will forever have an unsteady foundation, just like our current society and a lot of things like that. Like, for example, systemic racism and, the police force or whatever. And when I say that, in no way am I saying that, I'm a liberal or I'm a right wing. I believe that politics like that are fucking ridiculous. Left side and right side are both fucking stupid. That is confirmation bias. That is polarization. That is giving in to the bias. That is giving in to just making the shit stupidly imbalanced and terrible. But then again, two sides, so it kind of has dualism to it. But then again, at the same time, if everyone was right in the middle, that would be much better off for everybody. But then again, it's about uniqueness. So then actually, everyone's free to have their own views and stuff like that. But when it's put into position of power on one side of the axis, then it becomes skewed. That's why it's so silly to me. They don't pick people in the middle. They pick people on one or the other, and it becomes skewed. But over time, when you have some people on the left, some people on the right in position of power, then over time it kind of balances itself out in the center. But at the same time, that's not really the case. Not quite so the case. There's still a skew to it in some way or another, and the damage is already done when it's already doing that. So it's like, it's better to just balance it off the everybody. Oh, God. What else was I going to say? I keep getting off track. Let me think here. Back to what I was saying. Okay. So with overpopulation or nuclear warfare, we're either going to wind up in some kind of dystopian future where everybody is always fucking depressed and big tech rules the fucking world or some shit like that. That's depicted in countless media, some kind of dystopia like that. Or we destroy ourselves, which I'm honestly hoping for over the dystopia, because the dystopia would be literally, you already know. It's in the name. But if we were to destroy ourselves and the planet, like I said, we could potentially rebuild back and better. If we were to destroy just ourselves and we went extinct, that would be objectively the best thing that's ever happened to this planet. Because we are the greatest threat to the planet. So us being gone, obviously it can heal and rebuild fully, and then it'll be back to normal eventually. And then the cycle could go on for millions of years, like it has already been doing. Tens and tens of millions of years. It's been perfectly fine. As soon as we show up, everything goes to shit, because we obviously have too much power. And we are corrupted with that power, which is just obvious to me, man. There's so much shit that's just blatantly fucking obvious. And, but yeah, maybe that is the best, that we do destroy ourselves and partially the planet, and then life rebuilds itself over millions and millions of years, and then eventually it gets back to the way it was. Because I personally believe that we may just be incapable of being fully, objectively, in the middle, open-minded, everyone. Because think of this way. If you have some kind of group that follows a certain ideology, it could be a flawed ideology or a good one. If you take out, for example, let's just say it's a bad ideology. That's, to society's standards, it's a bad ideology. If you were to take out one person that had that followed that idea and spreaded it, you still have to worry about the group. You take out the group, now, guess what? That doesn't stop the idea. It doesn't stop it from coming back. People, the idea, it just takes one person to think of it, for it to pop in their mind, and then boom, the problem starts all over again. The group can start up. Even if that person dies, another person can think of it up. It just takes one person to say to another, convince them, start a group. Start an organization, start a following, start a religion or something like that. It takes one thought, one person with that thought for it to spew back up again. And which is what makes us human, that imperfection, the flaw in the system, the anomaly. But we have to meet in the middle. We have to learn to control both sides if we wish to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, independent for the long term and be able to allow our planet to thrive as well as ourselves. But then again, technology is the answer, but what was the question? Technology is not necessary. It's a want. It's a want, not a need. We don't need technology. It's for convenience sakes. It's to allow us, to permit us to be lazier and lazier and lazier, allow things to be handed to us because, in our foundation, going about that type of stuff with the primitive stuff, it's much nicer for it to just be handed to you than you have to risk your life going out to hunt for food and berries and shit like that. But obviously, we don't need technology. We just think we need it because we want it so bad because life without it is much harder, obviously. But we have to also think, what is technology doing to us in the long run? It's kind of fucking us over. Maybe not really fucking us over, but fucking the planet over. When you fuck the planet over, you fuck ourselves over. And like, oh, we can go to another planet and be totally fine. Good luck with that. Good luck. Well, we can terraform Mars. Yeah. In maybe over 100 years or so from now. But do you think we're going to be able to last 100 years with the way shit's going right now? I'm kind of doubtful. I'm not going to lie. Because technology speeds up at a logarithmic scale. Our advancements just keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. Faster and faster and faster. It's like Moore's Law. Doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. Power of 2. But, maybe we will be able to terraform Mars and then destroy the planet and then go to Mars. Guess what? We're still a problem. We can fuck up that planet too. We will find some way to harvest some kind of resource that'll be from selfish desire for just temporary gain for some kind of money or some shit, and we'll fuck it up in the process again if we get that. And then what? Oh, we can go to another planet. It'll be totally fine. Light years away? Yeah, we can send some kind of colony in hypersleep and travel across unbelievably long distances. And then we get to that planet. Guess what? We are still the problem. We can still fuck it up. We have to fix ourselves, our systems, our ideologies, our mentality, our mindsets. That is what we need to fix. Not the planet, maybe we can lower the carbon emissions for the cars and shit. We need to think about our morals. We need to think about what we really need. In reality, we don't need anything else more than just basic fucking survival needs. We don't need anything more. We don't need anything more. We just think we do because we want it so bad because it makes our life so much easier. Well, guess what? You're fucking everything up and you're making yourself a depressed, suicidal fuck who sits in their goddamn white-sided room for days and days and days working in a cubicle, a little tiny box while you're surrounded by other mindless fucking ants. That's what we've come to. And we pick up the little scrapes in between here and there to try and make our lives a little bit better. It's because we did this to ourselves. We did this to ourselves. God. I could go on and on and on for hours. But it will change nothing until we start working on our mentality. That, or we all fucking die and the planet goes on without us. Those are the two best scenarios in my mind. The ultimatums. But then again, there's still more possibilities where you could have a little bit of oopsie daisies here and there because, obviously imperfection is what makes us humans to begin with, what separates us from autonomy and robotics and everything like that. And what I just described, the two ultimatums, though, are the best perfect case scenarios, which one, us being completely gone, that's totally a possibility, but the other, where everyone has a good mindset, that is something so unbelievably hard to accomplish. I don't even know how to begin. Being able to convert everybody's mentality to be open-minded, but still unique. I mean, I think I did it somewhat, but I still have bias that exists within me, inescapable biases. I can try to mitigate it as much as possible, but I will still have confirmation bias built into my system because I am a human, because I'm imperfect, and I always will be. No matter how much my ego inflates or whatever. However much I think I am more mentally fit than other people, but maybe I am the fool here. Maybe the people bathing in ignorance are truly living the better life because they're not worrying about the shit that they basically can't really fucking control. And once again, like I said, don't worry about the shit that you can't control, but then again, I think I can control it. And I don't know if I can control it until I try, which is what I'm trying to do. I am trying to control it, to make it better, to build. And by build, I mean tearing it down and rebuilding it better. A complete rebuild. Along the lines of Rin Gunan's quote, "We have reached the darkest era of this darkest period in which there is to be no returning from. And it is not, you know how the quote goes. Probably. I don't know, you might not, because it's kind of niche. I don't really fucking know. But basically, it's not about fixing little things here and there. It's about rebuilding our foundations entirely from the ground up. A complete refinery. A complete rebuilding from the ground up. Because we fucked up the foundation. You cannot fuck up the foundation or you have an unsteady structure. That is our society right now. That is what it is. Unsteady, shitty foundation. But yeah, that's basically it for now. This audio recording started as me attempting to freestyle a song in which I hadn't played the guitar in months. I was trying to get good at it again, maybe record something and put it on my Instagram story. And it has escalated to this, and I am grateful for that. Because I love talking like this and talking about this stuff because it is what drives me. It is my ultimate passion. Because it is something I view to be entirely necessary in some way. But then again, maybe I should just bathe in the ignorance, not worry about it, and enjoy my life. And to that I say, pick the middle, the center, both in between. I will do this. I will continue to do this, but I will not solely focus on doing what I'm doing right now. Talking about the stuff, trying to share my ideas, all that stuff, trying to make the world better in any way possible. Our society, our mindsets. That is part of it. That is half of where my goals are. The other half is enjoying my life and enjoying the moment, enjoying the present, living for the moment, and not relying on a secure future, going off of the beliefs of Chris McCandless. For I want that ever-changing horizon. I want every day to be different. Brand new challenges, brand new beauties to behold, brand new experiences, new qualia. I don't want that repeated cubicle lifestyle for 30 years straight just to be too old to do anything I want to do when I go to retire. That is not how you live life. Society may tell you that's how you live life. That's how you live like an ant. in a colony. So you tell me what you want to be. Actually, don't tell me. Tell yourself. Ask yourself. And then tell yourself what you want to be. What you really want to be. Not what others want you to be. Live for yourself. Live for what you want to be. It is your life to live, not for others to decide for you. You're the only thing you truly own. Make the most of it. And like I said, the cliche things in life tend to be the most impactful and most meaningful. What I just said to you is as cliche as it gets. And you've heard it multiple times before. But until you reach the point where you live every day like you're dying, that sensation, that mindset, that perception on reality will be an unexperienced thing for you. You will not fully understand people coming from that mindset, and you will not be able to put your shoes entirely there until you cross the threshold. And I can't tell you what the threshold may be for you, for it's different for everyone, I believe. But once you cross it, it is the greatest epiphany I could possibly describe. And I would also like to say a note, a couple side notes. I do not have any diagnosed autism. I may have some slight diagnosed ADHD when I was younger. And I have never taken drugs in my life. I have never done psychedelics. I have never drinking alcohol. I have never done any type of shit like that. I'm speaking on my normal conscious mindset ideology right now. This is how I normally think about this shit. It is not some kind of bullshit. You could describe it as manic, but then again, if you're to describe it as that, maybe I'm always manic. I just think I'm so passionate, so mixed with emotion, that I want to get this out there, but then again, I have to ask myself, should I even try to put this out there? Just enjoy my life. And to that, I say, once again, pick the middle, pick the center. Try to do both. Might as well. Because it's better than picking one and regretting your decision later. I'm going to try doing both, because that is the best open-minded, objectively best thing I think I can go with as of right now. Try to strive for the betterment of others as well as myself and balance the two. That's what it's all about. Countless things in this universe, all about balance, dualism. Where there is light, there is no darkness. Where there is darkness, there is no light. Darkness is the absence of light. Now, when you think about good and bad, if there was no bad, good would be normal. Good would not be good. Bad is there to contrast the bad. No, bad is there to contrast good to make it stand out more. Bad is what makes good good, because there is an anti-good, which is bad. It is an absence of good, just like there is an absence of light, which is darkness. Same goes for so many other things. It's two ends, two different sides. Dualism. That's why I believe the yin-yang is one of the most intelligent symbols we have ever created. And yet it is so simple. And yet it incorporates and defines countless things in our universe. The reality that unfolds before us via our senses, our perceptions. But yeah. And I keep thinking to myself, it's like, what if this recording gets out there and reaches thousands and thousands and thousands of people, or maybe an alien species picks up on this, or maybe no one listens to this at all. Not even myself. What if I die after recording this? And oh my God, I'm such a fucking prodigy. And oh my God, I'm such a genius, such that. And then what if this fades into history, as in nobody knows about it other than myself, and this recording never gets out there, and I talk like this, like I'm talking to someone. But what if there's no receiving end? And to that I say once again, it is worth the try. Because I don't know what can happen. But none of those chances where it's good outcomes will happen until I try. Till I initiate the chain and see where it follows. Until I let it unfold. That is change. Chains of changes. It's what drives it all. But, think here again. Going off that note, another thing I want to talk about when I say I may be viewed as some kind of, oh my God, this guy was such great ideas. And then again, I think my ideas are very simple and just based on logic that just about anybody could think about. And I'm just the guy that's just like, oh my God, look at me. I'm just flaunting this basic common knowledge, essentially. But the people that think that it's all that, because I've had people think that, do not worship the person. Worship the message. The point of the person is the message. The messenger, the point of the messenger is the message. Representation of dualism, which is a Jungian archetype, because there's multiple things found throughout multiple religions, because people have to come to similar conclusions because they only have so many things to work with, and they all have the same, pretty much similar things to work with to come to somewhat similar conclusions, but slightly different because it's unique and biased, and it's based on their experiences, and everyone experiences things differently and perceives things differently, and it's all relative, obviously. But point being, people view the Buddha or Jesus as a god because they were so wise and so, the point was the message. When Jesus says heaven on earth, that's essentially saying the best we can get. And that comes. I need to think about what I'm saying. He said, all these different things that follow a certain moral code, because religion is just that, it's a moral compass to point you in the right direction, or what we like to think is the right direction. And he basically talked about how to be, the objective best. But people like to say, oh, I'm a follower of Jesus, I'm a loyal Christian, but they don't follow the teachings of Jesus. They're called teachings for a reason. They teach, and you need to learn from them. But people don't learn. They just like to read the book and recite same things over and over and over again, but they don't learn from it. They may think that they may learn the words, they may learn the meanings of the words, but you don't officially learn it until you apply it and continue to apply it. That or you disregarded the information, essentially, because people will be absolute pieces of shit and call themselves Christians. Like, you are directly and actively disregarding the teachings of Jesus, and you think praying and shit is going to be able to, like, oh, he'll forgive me if I lie or cheat on my husband or something like that. He'll still forgive me. First of all, forgiveness is an illusion. You don't need to pray for forgiveness, for God is not within time. He already knows exactly what you're going to do and why, down to the tiniest bit, because he exists outside of time, and he created you, and he created time, and he created the concept of forgiveness, essentially, because it stems from you, so he directly made it. And on top of that, it is silly to think that you can piss off God. Because if you can piss off God and someone else can forgive you, that shows that they're better at something than God himself. Which is like, oh, I can forgive you, but God can't. That's just stupid. That's like pretending like God is a child or some kind of human. Because God isn't human. God is not human because humans are imperfect. Perfection is the peak of everything, the peak of knowledge, the peak of everything, which is God. He is the peak of paradox, the peak of a sunless mountain, or the stem, or the seed of a forever, everlasting, sprouting tree, which is what I have a painting on my wall of. And that's what initially created me trying to sing that song in the beginning and also try to talk about all that shit because now it's coming full circle. Isn't that awesome? But, what was I saying again? If you get pissed off at me talking about Jesus like that, that is confirmation bias right there. That is directly bias. And I'm not saying I despise you for it, nor do I pity you for it. Perhaps I envy you in a way. This goes for any religion, any person, any political party, any person. Bias is what makes you human, but it is also your greatest flaw. But you can learn to control it. You just need to ask why and why and why again. Keep asking why and then answer it. Don't just ask yourself and never answer. You need to ask and then answer. The purpose is the answer. So that's why you need to search in yourself why you think that type of stuff is and why you think things are the way they are. That, or you can bathe in ignorance, and perhaps that is the better alternative. But then again, you have to... That's the thing. The objective best is the subjective ultimatum of everyone combined. You can't really pick one or the other. Then again, that's why I don't think we're going to be able to fix and have an objectively best mentality for everyone, because people cling on to their biases because that is what makes them human. And I do not blame them for that, because I do that myself. I'm hypocritical for saying that. But then again, I'm speaking objectively. I don't think it's going to work out. I think we're going to fucking destroy ourselves, or we're going to be in some kind of dystopia and then destroy ourselves, or just keep destroying and keep fucking ourselves over. Like I was talking about earlier. That is what I believe is going to happen. More than likely. Because I can't say you're wrong for having that kind of bias. Because we don't know exactly what the truth is. And nothing can be truly proven nor disproven in this universe. For a good reason, too. Because it's unknown. Because of ignorance. It's a paradox. We don't know what exists outside our universe. We don't know if there's things playing into it, like simulation theory or whatever. But all I'm going to say is that objectively speaking, based on history, if you think about this, you see countless pictures of Jesus depicted as a white man. He was born in the Middle East. Do you think it makes sense for a white man to be born in the Middle East? More than likely, he was dark-skinned, dark brown hair. Scientists even confirm that type of, shit. You can look it up. Unlikely. Will pop right up in your face. Jesus was more than likely a dark-skinned person. And it plays into, obviously racism and supremacy, that type of shit. Because when Christianity moved over to England or Europe, that kind of area, they depicted him essentially as, someone based off of the king, which was a white man. And then, they spread that kind of agenda. Crusaders, whatnot, that type of shit. Spread the idea, followed that ideology, biased, and now it's built in the system where it's basically racist and to think that, Jesus is this pure white male, and because of that, they think white is pure and that white is superior. That's how some people think, and they're racist, and they can't really escape it because it is built into their system and their leading ideology and religion, which is their moral compass, which is what drives their morality to begin with. But anyways, yeah. The Bible itself, it was not written by God, it was written by man. And if you would like to believe that English is a a perfect enough language, or whatever it was converted from, is a perfect language. It would have to be perfect to be able to capture the perfection of God, to capture the perfection of his messages, of what he was trying to transcribe to the people, if it actually happened, and I'm not saying it did or it didn't, because I can't prove nor disprove it, but regardless, objectively speaking, our languages are imperfect, they're flawed, they have their errors, they are no way perfect. They stem from imperfect beings, us. We are imperfect. Therefore, the language is imperfect itself. And if you think an imperfect being with an imperfect, or more so biased and limited experience in their background, viewing a certain, thing from God or whatever, and they perceive it in a certain way, and then they write it down with an imperfect language, and then they pass it on generation by generation, and people perceive it in different ways, and they take one perception of the meaning and then hold it up high as if it's the one and only way to interpret it. That's where errors start to occur in the long run. It's like a long game of telephone. That's what the Bible is, and pretty much a lot of other religious works. I'm just using the Bible as an example. It's not just the Bible, it's all religions. When it's passed across over time and time again, people make slip-ups. It's like telephones, like whispering in the ear, and then people over time forget the original concept to begin with. Then again, back to what I was talking about. Side note, I don't believe in hell. Hell is silly, because it would basically be like God punishing you for something he directly put you to go off and do, because he created everything and knows exactly what you're going to do, because he's outside of time, because he is in the same point across the past, present, and future. And so also that's why I don't believe that praying is really going to do much for you, because he already knows exactly what you're going to say, and you don't really need to say it for him to know it, because he already knows exactly what you're going to think. So you could just basically think it if you want to do that. But what was I going to say again? But yeah, I don't think hell exists, because you don't need to be forgiven for anything. You don't need to, pray for forgiveness for your sins, because you knows exactly what you're going to do, because he put you out to do those things, because you were meant to make sins, quote, quote, because you were meant to do good and bad, because you are imperfect, and because you can pretty much not be perfectly in the middle. It's like that one quote from that Papa Roach song where it's like, there's a thin line between good and evil, and I will walk on that tightrope, but I will feel unstable. It's essentially what you gotta try to do. I love that song. The song's awesome. Another song from They May Be Giants. It is Don't Let's Start. One of the lines says, nobody gets what they want, and that is beautiful. Everybody dies sad and lonely, however it goes, and that is beautiful. That's the way it should be. Really good song, really good lyrics. Means a lot. A lot of depth and definition to those words. But I'm getting sidetracked again. Let me go back to what I was saying. I also don't really believe in the concept of heaven either, because hoping for that afterlife is to essentially hope for immortality, for an endless afterlife of just peace and whatever. And I think the ultimate level of peace, as you put it, is just to not be anything at all. Because as long as you exist as an imperfect being with an imperfect mentality, or soul, as you like to put it, with qualia, and different experiences that build your personality and your mentality, there has to be conflict, it has to be change, there has to be fluctuations in order for you to even basically be able to think and to improve your mindset and whatnot. And that basically is kind of torture if it goes on for infinity, because eventually you will basically probably run out of steps to climb. And the reason why death is as beautiful and as important as life itself is because death is what gives value to each and every second in life. Without death, what is a second worth? Ask yourself. If you lived forever, how much would a second be worth? No, I don't think it would really be worth anything, because you have an infinite amount of seconds, pretty much. And that's also part of the beauty of us as well, is that we are only here for a limited amount of time. We tell a beautiful story, and then we're gone. Qualia, wings to a butterfly that may only flutter for so long, may only dance for so long. That is something I wrote about a year ago from now. But that's essentially what it is. We sing a song, then we're gone. And that's the beauty of it, is that we don't live forever. But objectively speaking, if you were to view from God's point of view, he is outside of time, and therefore, for him, an instant of time basically exists forever. It's like a screenshot. So you exist forever in that moment. If you were to take a screenshot from God's perspective, that second is basically played again and again and again and again and again for him, but then it was never played to begin with, because there was no time, because there's no order, essentially. It's all packed into a single instant for him. So every screenshot exists forever and never for him. So in a way, we all are already more immortal for existing in the first place. So for me, that enough is a soul in and of itself. Good enough for me. I don't need an afterlife or before life, because it's about the right now. That is all it's about right now. I can say it again and again and again, but there are countless things that point towards that being the utmost objective best way to view it. But let me think this again. Where was I again? But yeah, like I was saying, we're essentially all immortal, but mortal. Mortal to us, immortal to God. We're the peak of paradox. We're outside of time. We're immortal out there, because time is all an instant, never, but forever. And that is good enough for me, because I'm immortal in that way, but I'm mortal to me, so I do not have to suffer for all eternity and eventually run out of steps to climb on the infinite staircase, because there's an infinite amount of time, and every second wouldn't really be valuable, because eventually I would know everything I can possibly know, pretty much. That, or I reach a wall of paradoxes in which I cannot solve, but I've solved everything else before. So that basically is running out of steps to climb. Maybe you can still climb. I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, but it's basically kind of like that. But yeah, that's why I don't think hell or heaven exists. Pretty much, I think they're just Jungian archetypes yet again, trying to capture dualism through a moral compass, which is religion, which is Christianity, of course, and then other religions also have a depiction of heaven and hell as well, the afterlife, or reincarnation, which also could kind of technically be a thing in a way in which you live the same life again and again and again, which refers back to, obviously viewing outside of time, you're immortal. But within time, you are mortal. But outside of time, you're kind of like in that loop, but not in a loop, and each of them being separated and repeated individually in a loop, and then the loops being in a loop, and then a loop, and a loop, because there's just no way to fully grasp it. I could just say that forever, and it still will not be able to capture it fully, because it is an instant. It is a singularity. That's what it is. So you could kind of think of it as you living again and again, but only one time. So you're not really living it again and again, so it's not really reincarnation. So, pretty much, this is our one and only shot, but it exists forever and never, and in a finite amount of time. For us only, pretty much. But also God could also exist within time and outside of time, but that's another thing. But, honestly, man, they should just put me on a stage in front of a ton of fucking people, and I could ramble about this shit for an entire day. Days and days and days and weeks on end. And I would still have more to talk about. That, or I just have to settle, which is usually what I have to do. I just be like, okay, I'm going to stop thinking now, because I'm going to keep thinking if I don't stop myself right now. Which is where I'm about to get, pretty much. I may get there pretty close, pretty soon. But back to what I was saying. That's why I also think people thinking homosexuality and shit like that is stupid, because it is entirely, yet again, another biased thing played into by a faulted game of telephone, pretty much, in which a moral compass turns into a cult following, which is not how it should be, because moral compasses should be interpreted differently per person, not just one interpretation, one biased interpretation for the whole thing, because that is essentially just a cult. That is just one leading ideology following. It is not a moral compass. It is not a background. It is not a foundation for you to build on. It's not, and in no way religion should be viewed as a perfect guide, because it is not, because it is an imperfect guide created by imperfect beings with imperfect language, with imperfect biased backgrounds and everything. So it is not a perfect guide, but people view it as that, in which it shouldn't be viewed like that. It is a moral compass where you make your interpretations based off it. It is to point you in the right direction, not to guide you every step of the way. It is to point you in the right direction. And then you take off from there. And people don't like doing that. People like to be sticking by the book as long as possible, because they like having that helping hand, or that illusionary helping hand every step of the way, because they fear the unknown. And I can't blame them, because it is built into our foundation. We are made to fear the unknown. That is what drives us, pretty much, to survive. And it's built into our foundation, obviously. But I'm here to tell you that you need to accept and embrace and rejoice over the unknown, because it is a beautiful gift. It is the greatest gift of all, and is what it permits all of this to happen to begin with. The unknown, ignorance, is the greatest gift of all. It is what allows us to have that forever unclimbable staircase above us, pretty much. That summitless mountain, countless paradoxes keeping us down here, so that we may forever have meaning, forever have purpose, for as long as we exist in our finite amount of time. Immortal, yet mortal. Perpetual, yet ended. We tell stories and create meaning from the meaningless. Everything from nothing. That's what we are. We are the pencil in which God writes his stories with. We are the medium. We are the actors. Yet the performers. The utensils, the paintbrush, and it's so beautiful. And I hope everyone gets to view it like that someday, because it is truly amazing. Really. Simply amazing. So. I plan to write a book, but just as much as I want to finish it, I also believe that I probably won't be able to finish it, or I won't finish it for multiple reasons. But I think a book would be nice, to be able to just hand people my book without having to spew in their face for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, me saying this type of shit, and then repeat it, because over time I get annoyed having to say this stuff again and again and again, because I want it to be already understood. But of course it's not going to be like that for every person, because I would have to, like I was talking about earlier, and that's why I sometimes talk like I assume you already know a lot of the stuff I already talked about, which obviously not the case, because there's separate recordings and all that shit, different entries, and some of which I haven't even written down or said at all. It's just still stuck in my head, still have not gotten the time to say it out loud and stuff. But in this recording, I just wanted to touch about the main type of stuff, the main quote stuff that I tend to think about, and I think I talked about almost all of them. So like I said, I think I'm going to have to settle. And that may just be one of my longest songs. Didn't think I was still singing, did you? I know. I don't know. But yeah. I think a lot of the stuff I talked about, when I tried talking about other stuff, I got distracted talking about more things, and then I didn't come back and talk about them, and which now I have forgotten about pretty much a lot of the things that I talked about, because I like it flowing, fluidly coming from my mouth, painting a picture on this canvas with my words as paint. I just like to think and talk as I go. None of this is premeditated in any way. This started all with me attempting to make a song on the fly, random lyrics, random chords, so I could just post it on my fucking story. But I'm glad it turned into this, because I needed to say this stuff again, get off my chest. So thank you, if anybody is listening. This is Hunter. I don't know why I said it like that. But yeah. The time is now 2:17 a.m. I've been talking for about 2 hours straight into the fucking phone, if you can believe that. And I've been just like pacing back and forth across my room like a fucking maniac. Yeah, I think it might partially be manic, but it's a good manic in my eyes, because I love talking about this stuff. Even if people think I'm fucking crazy, and maybe I am. But like I said before, insanity is relative, based on the social norm, and normal is abnormal. So if you ask me, I'm just embracing what I want to do. I'm just following my passion. If that's crazy, then I say crazy is fucking good. Follow your passions, follow your dreams. Try to push for the objective best for others and yourself. Keep an open mind for everything. Observe all possibilities and draw from it the best conclusion you can possibly do. You will not be able to reach a perfect one, but you can, by God, try your best to reach the best possible one you can get to. And from that, things may just turn out better. But then again, you can't control everything. Most things you can't control. It's all about going with the flow, traveling with the current, living in the present, right now. And just, most of all, the biggest part of this whole thing is acceptance. Acceptance is probably the strongest thing we have at our disposal. It is beautiful, to say the least. Except you can't control so many things in your life. Except that you will never be able to know everything. Except that you will always be flawed, imperfect. Except that you may never be able to say everything you want to say. And with that, I think I've said enough for now. So thank you, if you listened. If there's anyone on the other end, keep going. Bathe in the ignorance gifted to you, and strive for that ultimate passion which drives you. Don't let anything stop you. Take every opportunity. Remember, the cliche things tend to be the most impactful, the most meaningful. So don't glance over these cliche thoughts. Truly think about them. Ask why, and answer it. And then ask why again, until you can't anymore. And try again another day. Accept your foundations that are built into you and which you cannot change. Do not exaggerate one side in attempts to be normal and repress primitive instincts. for it will only exaggerate the opposite side if you exaggerate one side. You must accept and acknowledge, recognize the bad, the quote, bad in you in order to control it. That also plays some kind of media I'm not going to name. But, fuck it, I'll say it. American Psycho. It's fucking corny and cheesy shit to say that now. A lot of people kind of fucking whatever. But yeah, that's an example of it. But yeah. Thank you. And goodbye.